Can a state government ban something done by a federal government? You've probably not heard about this, but about a week ago, Desantis passed a bill in the Florida House that bans CBDCs. Those are basically government backed crypto coins. The question is, can a state government even ban anything done by the federal government? And the answer here is weird. It's yes or no. Let me explain. So the bill basically says it's banning any federally backed crypto coins, and this can be crypto coins backed by the US federal government or crypto coins backed by foreign sanctioned reserve or central banks. So basically, the equivalent of a Federal Reserve outside of the US. If they create a crypto coin, the Florida state has banned those crypto coins to be or being used as money in Florida. This is even possible. The reason that's a question is because technically the Commerce Clause, which is Article 1, Section 8, I think Clause 3 of the U.S. Constitution, gives two authorities. It gives authority over anything that has to do with commerce, commerce across states, and commerce across countries. It gives that authority to the federal government. Specifically, though, it gives it to Congress. So I think this is where DeSantis is hoping there is a loophole for him. It gives it to Congress. So technically, Congress can create any kind of coin. In fact, two clauses down after the Commerce Clause, again, the Commerce Clause says any commerce that happens in between states and between the U.S. and other countries is under the purview of the federal government, specifically Congress. And then two clauses down, there's also the coining clause, right? And that clause gives the authority to the federal government, to Congress, to mint and coin currency. And Congress has taken that authority and has given it to, or at least delegated some of it to the Federal Reserve to be able to create currency on its behalf. Now, so looking at what DeSantis tried to do here, now his understanding or his purpose is that if foreign governments and the U.S. federal government can create a CBDC coin. The thing about crypto is that crypto is trackable. Everything you do with crypto is actually trackable. Now, the wallet itself does not have a name on it, which is why people think crypto is anonymous. But the truth is that every transaction you make on crypto can be traced using your wallet address because it's public. Every transaction is public. And so all you need to do is trace the wallet, transferring money to another wallet, and keep going down the road to see where money came from and where it's going to. Now, DeSantis' belief is that if the federal government is running something like this, then the federal government gets to know everything that you're doing. Every time you spend money, the government knows what you're spending money on. It can trace who you send money to. It can trace everything you do. And if they can trace your financial life, then they can trace, then they know everything about you, which is relatively true. On the other hand, the second fear is that if the federal government can do this, then anytime, if anyone doesn't like you, they'll just switch it off. Anybody in the government that sees something you're doing with your funds and they don't find it appropriate, or you have the wrong groupthink, they'll just switch it off. We saw something similar happening where Visa and MasterCard were turning off access to certain people with certain political ideas that they didn't approve of. And we're not just doing that, they were pressuring other companies like this company that starts with a P now. They are a platform where creators can get funding. I've forgotten what the company is called now. They used to be very popular. But basically, Visa and MasterCard pressured those companies to let go some of their subscribers and users because they didn't approve of what those users were using the platform for. The idea is that if you can do that, then the federal government gets to dictate who can do what and who cannot do what, who can think this way and who cannot think this way. They get to approve right thing. Of course, this will end up clashing with the First Amendment, so I think there's some pushback there. But the underlying fundamental fear is valid. But is what DeSantis is doing going to have any teeth? So it's yes and no. The reason why this is a bit complicated is what DeSantis actually tried to do was to go after the UCC. So it turns out what many states are doing is the states themselves are 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 passing laws under the UCC. Let me backtrack a little. So in the US, states don't actually always go and write every single bill and try to pass every single bill. There's just so much to do, right? Think about the criminal code, the commerce code, contracts. There's so many areas of law that different states cannot always get to. So what they do instead is there's something called the UCC, the Uniform Commercial Code. And when you're in law school, you learn this first year of law school. And what the UCC does is a bunch of people who are specialists in this, and they consist of lawyers and other people in the market. They come together every year and they look at the present laws in the books and they kind of determine, okay, we need to make compromises here in order to make commerce better. So a good example of this is now that there's digital signatures everywhere, especially during COVID, where people couldn't go out and get things digitally signed or notarized, the UCC would recommend, like those who are drafting the laws that year would recommend that now we would allow digital signatures instead of requiring physical signatures in certain circumstances. The idea is if you have people in the market always trying to update the laws, then the market moves faster, right? And it's smart. It saves a lot of time and effort and allows a lot of growth. There's a lot of debate. And I think there are representatives from different states that come together to do this. I'm not sure, but I think so. Now, what happens is after they do that and they agree on a final version, they share that version with the different states. Different states take a look at it, debate it, remove some stuff, usually not too much, and then they pass it as their updated laws. So it saves everybody time across the board. The downside about that is if there's any of those laws that you don't really approve of, they can sneak under the radar. So what DeSantis is saying here is that when one of those UCC laws, apparently in one of the most recent ones, they allowed for the use of CBDC as currency. So now part of the UCC states that you can use certain cryptocurrency, government-backed cryptocurrency as money. It circumvents Congress, and that's his argument. His argument is that the Article 1, the Constitution, gives that authority to Congress to do, and certain states are sneaking it under the radar, and by that putting pressure on other states to do the same. And what they're doing in Florida is they're trying to reverse that. So Florida is saying that, no, we're not going to allow this. Now, the way it's phrased, though, is very, very broad, at least from the summary on the website, because it says it prohibits the use of federally adopted digital currencies within Florida's UCC, so that's okay. But it also institutes protections against cryptocurrency by prohibits the use of government-backed crypto issued by a foreign sanctioned reserve bank or central bank. The foreign aspect of this still falls under Congress purview because Article 1 gives Congress the authority to regulate commerce amongst states, but also within between the US and foreign states. In this case, the Florida law is trying to regulate something that's happening between the US and foreign states, foreign countries. And so it's circumvented by Article 1. So in total, where I see this is going to have some effect, if it's going to have any, is within Florida's own UCC. So it's correct that as long as Congress itself has not passed a law that allows for CBDC use, then both the Federal Reserve, because the Federal Reserve actually is supposed to be a fourth estate agency, meaning it's not supposed to be under either Congress or under the executive branch, but technically it functions under the executive branch. So, and even if it doesn't, it still doesn't have the authority to do it unilaterally, because the powers it's using are powers delegated to it by Congress. So it will still need to go through Congress to, it may, again, it depends on the enabling act that enables the Federal Reserve. But the Federal Reserve may still need to go through Congress to pass an electronic digital currency